A decade of upheaval setting the stage for the 1960s. The 1960s, a decade etched in history as a time of profound change. The world was still reeling from the aftermath of World War II. Societal norms were rigid. Conformity was the norm. Yet, beneath the surface, a tremor of unrest was building. The seeds of change were sown in the 1950s. The civil rights movement was gaining momentum in the United States. The Cold War loomed large, casting a shadow of fear and uncertainty. Young people, yearning for something more, began to question the status quo. This underlying tension erupted in the 1960s. A youth-led counterculture emerged, challenging traditional values and demanding change. The world watched in awe and apprehension as the old order crumbled, making way for a new era. Shattering social norms, the winds of change. The 1960s witnessed a seismic shift in social norms. Traditional values were challenged and new ways of thinking emerged. Young people, dubbed baby boomers, became the face of this cultural revolution. The old rules no longer applied. Sexuality was explored more openly. Gender roles were questioned. The traditional family structure was redefined. It was a time of liberation and experimentation. This rejection of conformity sent shockwaves through society. Older generations grappled to understand the changing landscape. The generation gap widened, creating a chasm between tradition and change. Music to the movement, a soundtrack of rebellion. Music became the anthem of the 1960s revolution. It gave voice to the hopes, dreams, and frustrations of a generation. From folk to rock and roll, music became a powerful tool for social commentary. Folk singers like Bob Dylan and Joan Baez used their music to protest war and injustice. Rock and roll bands like the Beatles and the Rolling Stones ignited a sense of rebellion and freedom. Music festivals became gathering places for the counterculture. The impact of 1960s music transcended borders. It became a global phenomenon, uniting young people across continents. The power of music to inspire, provoke, and unite was undeniable. Threads of freedom fashion's evolution in the 1960s. Fashion became another canvas for self-expression in the 1960s. Gone were the conservative styles of the previous decade. In their place emerged a kaleidoscope of colors, patterns, and silhouettes. Miniskirts, bell-bottoms, and tie-dye shirts became symbols of the era. Fashion reflected the changing attitudes towards gender and sexuality. It was a celebration of individuality and freedom. The fashion industry underwent a radical transformation. Young designers challenged traditional norms, introducing innovative and daring designs. Fashion became more accessible, reflecting the democratic spirit of the times. Section 5, Power to the People, Political Upheavals and Transformations. The 1960s was a time of political upheaval and transformation. The civil rights movement gained momentum, challenging racial segregation and discrimination. The Vietnam War sparked widespread protests as young people questioned the morality of war. Student activism emerged as a powerful force for change. Students organized protests, sit-ins and demonstrations demanding social justice and an end to the war. Their voices resonated across campuses and beyond. The assassination of President John F. Kennedy in 1963 sent shockwaves through the world. His death marked the end of an era and cast a long shadow over the decade. The political landscape was forever altered. Section 6, Technological Leaps from Space Race to the Computer Age. The 1960s witnessed remarkable technological advancements. The space race between the United States and the Soviet Union captivated the world. The dream of space travel became a reality, inspiring generations to come. The development of the computer revolutionized communication and information processing. The first supercomputers were built, paving the way for the digital age. Technology began to transform everyday life. These technological leaps had a profound impact on society. They opened up new possibilities and challenged traditional ways of thinking. The world was shrinking, and information was becoming more accessible than ever before. Section 7, Marching for Equality, the Civil Rights Movement's Enduring Impact. The civil rights movement, already gaining momentum in the 1950s, reached its zenith in the 1960s. Led by visionary leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. and Malcolm X, the movement fought tirelessly for racial equality. From the Montgomery bus boycott to the March on Washington, the movement organized peaceful protests and demonstrations, demanding an end to segregation and discrimination. The Civil Rights Act of 1964 and the Voting Rights Act of 1965 were landmark achievements, outlawing discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. The civil rights movement not only transformed American society, but also inspired similar movements for equality and justice around the globe. It was a testament to the power of peaceful protest and the unwavering pursuit of human rights. Section 8, Women's Roar, the unstoppable tide of feminism. The 1960s witnessed the resurgence of feminism as women demanded equal rights and opportunities. The publication of Betty Friedan's The Feminine Mystique in 1963 ignited a firestorm, challenging traditional gender roles and expectations. Women began to question their prescribed roles as wives and mothers. They demanded equal pay for equal work, access to education and employment opportunities, and reproductive rights. The women's liberation movement was born. The feminist movement of the 1960s challenged deeply ingrained societal norms. It paved the way for greater gender equality in the decades to come, transforming the role of women in society. Section 9, Our Fragile Planet, the Genesis of Environmentalism. The 1960s marked the beginning of the modern environmental movement. Rachel Carson's groundbreaking book, Silent Spring, published in 1962, exposed the dangers of pesticides and their impact on the environment. People began to realize the interconnectedness of human actions and the health of the planet. Concerns about pollution, deforestation, and the loss of biodiversity grew. The first Earth Day was celebrated in 1970, uniting millions in a call for environmental protection. The environmental movement of the 1960s laid the foundation for the global environmental movement that continues to this day. It highlighted the urgent need to protect our planet for future generations. Section 10. Icons of change, faces and voices of a generation. The 1960s produced a constellation of iconic figures who became synonymous with the era's spirit of change. From musicians to activists, these individuals inspired millions with their courage, creativity, and unwavering commitment to justice. Martin Luther King Jr., this message of peace and equality resonated throughout the world. The Beatles' music ignited a sense of rebellion and freedom. Muhammad Ali's courage and athleticism transcended the boxing ring, making him a symbol of hope and resistance. These icons of change represented the diverse voices and aspirations of a generation. Their legacies continue to inspire and challenge us to create a more just and equitable world. Section 11. A legacy of transformation, the enduring impact of the 1960s. The 1960s left an indelible mark on the world, transforming social norms, challenging political systems, and igniting cultural revolutions. The echoes of this transformative decade continue to reverberate today. The movements for civil rights, women's liberation, and environmental protection gained momentum in the 1960s, paving the way for greater equality and justice. The music, fashion, and art of the era continue to inspire and influence contemporary culture. The 1960s taught us the power of collective action, the importance of questioning the status quo, and the enduring belief in a better future. It was a decade that dared to dream, to challenge, and to transform the world. And while the challenges of today may be different, the spirit of the 1960s, the spirit of hope, resilience, and unwavering pursuit of a more just and equitable world, remains as relevant as ever.